Hey everyone, thanks for joining our session today on Rethink Trust with Zero Trust Network Access, or ZTNA. I'm really excited to welcome our speakers today, Andres Ruz, Director of Information Security with Meriplex, and back again, Andy Crocker, Solutions Architect with Fortinet. Before we get started, Andy's going to talk a little bit about Cybersecurity Awareness Month in October. So Andy, kick us off.
Thank you for that, and happy Cybersecurity Month. This is a good opportunity for everyone to just be aware of the good material that we have online that you guys can take advantage. The concept or theme this year that it has been selected is Be Cyber Smart. So there's a lot of very good content in the Homeland Security page related to cybersecurity that you can take advantage. There's posters, there's different kind of concept that you can start using within your organization, especially this month, to take care. And I hope that we can help in anyhow with that communication within your company. And with that, let's go to the subject. Andy, very nice to see you. How's everything going?
Oh, it's great. It's good to see you too. This is going to be fun.
So, the funny thing is we were putting this presentation together and we were working with Andy, and we said, you know what, everyone is kind of tired of talking about remote work and working from home. So a couple of things for the presentation today is that we want to talk about how that is influencing the zero trust concept. We promise you that we're not going to go back to COVID and and a working from home concept that you guys have heard enough probably as we do. It's pretty much everyone is talking about these things. The key thing here is that about how those situations now are changing the way that we work, especially with when we talk about zero trust. So we're going to present you with a problem statement saying that now that we are all aware that this is happening, something very important that I think everyone will agree is that working from home is not going anywhere. This is going to stay for longer, and this is something that we just have to be cautious whenever we talk about architecture and security architecture components, because it's a new component that in the past was kind of some company have them, some company didn't have it, so, depending on the culture of the company. But this is staying, and this is staying for long. This is not going away in a month. So now that we know that, this can produce some different alternatives whenever we talk about architecture, whenever we talk about security itself.
And one of the things to point out, I mean, it's on the slide there, Andy, but we talked a little bit about the natural disasters. You and I talked about this the other day. I actually talked to a customer last week who lives in Lake Charles, Louisiana. As you know, they got hit with the hurricane, right?
Twice.
It totally destroyed their facilities, right? So that's just another example of where you never know what's going to happen and what's going to create or cause more and more people to be working from home. So that's huge when you start thinking about it. And you're right. I've also talked to a number of customers who probably not going back to an office.
Yeah.
The companies are like, hey, we're still productive. Let's just keep everybody at home. So yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. And again, the key concept here is we don't want to hammer down on the concept of, we want you to start thinking that this is a critical piece in your architecture when you talk about security that is not going away. So we want you to think long term when you talk about architectures. And I think this is a good thing when we talk about the different elements of your teleworker solution. We need to start thinking that all these things now have a kind of a totally different flavor, right? In the past, we think a couple of years ago, all your applications were consumed pretty much on the LAN side with your users right there next to them. But now pretty much your applications can be in any cloud. It can be a SaaS application. It can be consumed by someone working at the office, but it can also be someone working in a branch. It can be someone that is remote with just internet access to your with no VPN. And also we talk about that the connectivity and experience of the user may be very different. We can have a very home poor connectivity because you live in a very rural area where you don't have a very good connectivity. So in some cases, VPN for that you cannot even connect it, right? It's going to be very, very poor, very bad experience for the user. So this has changed and has been changing for some time now. The only new element that we want you to start thinking is, okay, this working from home that in the past was, your admins, when they have to go back and do something, or maybe from time to time someone needs to take care of something and they need to work from home. Now this is a component when you think about your architecture? It's a component that you have to define. It's a component that you have to address.
Mm-hmm. Well stated.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite slides. I need to say, one of the cornerstone when you think about zero trust architecture is going to be around identity, right? So who is the user? Again, going back a couple of years ago, we are thinking is everyone kind of has the same level of access. It doesn't matter if you're an employee, if you're a contractor, you're a vendor, you have a machine that is connected to the same LAN, and pretty much you have full access to your network right now. So what we want to do when we start introducing the concept of zero trust is say, no, time out. Who are you? What is your role? What applications you have to consume, right? Because all those answers at the very end are going to allow an enterprise to better protect not only the identity, which is the cornerstone, but also the access to the application. So this of identity and access management that I feel that has grown tremendously in the last 5 years, this is a key concept and a cornerstone on the architecture of zero trust.
Yeah, I mean, it go a little further than that, Andy, because you really need to know not only who, like you said, but where are they connecting from? How long are they staying connected? I mean, are they connecting for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour? You got to have that complete identity. And let's go even further. What if somebody starts buying printers or other devices and connecting them, right? How do you know that? And how do you make sure that access is actually monitored and contained if so need to be?
And you and I talk about the flexibility, that we have been seeing for some time now with the BYOD, right? When people go and select their own devices and say, now this is my device, and there's a lot of solutions for that right now. A lot of policies have been deployed. This is another component to say, okay, that is not any longer, a fixed variable in our architecture. It can be pretty much any type of device. It can be any type of device. It can be co-owned. It can be simple owned. But at the very end, we have to protect the identity of the user. We have to protect what is behind the access.
Very true. So when you think about the network access portfolio, it goes a lot further, right? So global threat intelligence, we offer that global threat intelligence across 15 different security disciplines. Everything from next-gen firewall to web application firewall to endpoint protection, and even more, secure email gateways. But when you think about, especially what we're talking about today and a lot of the work from home, a couple of things come to mind, right? So using some sort of authenticator. And what we're talking about is multi-factor authentication, where now I have to have a token of some sort. It's not just relying on my username and password. Let's take that a step further, and let's make sure that individual is who they say they are. I mean, you never know who's going to be, maybe you're working at a Starbucks and you forget to log off. Somebody can log back in. I mean, even if they steal your credentials, it's extremely important having that multi-factor, which includes some sort of a token. And then the other part of that is what we were just talking about, the identity of who is connecting. So a network access control is a system that can identify every single type of device, whether it's an Internet of Things, whether it's a headless device, whether it's no matter what it is. And that even includes Mac spoofing, right? So I got a Raspberry Pi, but I can spoof a laptop. Well, that's something that you got to have something in place that identifies that that's not a laptop, that's a Raspberry Pi. And that's just one example of it, right? You got to have that ability to be able to identify that.
But what you're saying on this one is very good, because there is a lot of incorrect sense of security when people deploy, the poor security features of enable, certain MAC addresses. And you and I know that we can break that in 13 seconds, right? So I'm glad to bring that in, because honestly, we can break that MAC very fast.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the frightening part, right? And so how are you going to make sure it's zero trust if you're just allowing anybody and everything to connect, right? But then alongside of that is put the controls on it, put some remediation type rules behind it so that you're protected, which is huge. And of course, I guess the other thing that we haven't brought up yet, Andy, which I think is a huge thing to keep in mind, these people who are, whether it's a corporate owned laptop or they go to Best Buy because all of a sudden this COVID hit and now we got to work from home, and they go buy a laptop, vulnerabilities, having that ability to keep up with all the vulnerabilities, keeping everything patched and up to date. That's part of that zero trust network. I mean, and when you look at the fabric and the portfolio of solutions to deal with zero trust access from remote workers, you got to start looking at beyond just connecting, because you got to look at what's residing on that device.
Totally. Seems we have a question. Oh, this is a great question. I don't know. I'm sure we get this very often. Do you want to address it or do you want to address it? Well,
let's both do it. You go first and then I'll follow up.
Okay, so this is a great question. Of course, there is some overlapping, right? So when you talk, if we are going to just compare with a traditional VPN, it's a totally different concept, right? If we are going to talk a layer 3 access to your network on a traditional VPN, zero trust doesn't work in that way. Zero trust pretty much take care of who you are, how you are connecting, where you're connecting from, and what are you connecting to. All those questions the VPN will not ask, right? Now, I will say this because I'm a fan of the FortiGates. With the SSL VPN, some of those questions, you can group them, right? So there's some of the questions that you can group them in, but what we will find out today is that to have a true zero trust architecture, you will have to leverage different products. And the SSL VPN is going to be one component that's going to address some of the questions on that. So it's substantially a very different solution and a much more secure solution.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It goes way beyond just the connection. When I think of, and I agree with you, it's a fantastic question. When I think about this question, the difference between zero trust, network access, and VPN. VPN is I'm just connecting, whether it's SSL VPN or whatever it is, right? That's just the connection. What we're talking about with zero trust network access is beyond that. We're talking about the vulnerabilities. We're talking about where you're connecting, how you're connecting, what are you connecting to? You mentioned a while ago, what applications are you using? And like we said, how long are you on those applications? So it goes a lot deeper. And you could actually say zero trust network access lays on top of the VPN, because the VPN connects, zero trust says, okay, you're connecting, but how are you going to be protected?
Yeah, and something else you can do user behavioral analysis, right? You can say, oh, okay, this guy's, it's not making sense what he's trying to do by the role, by the normal. So that's a very important concept on top of this.
Absolutely it is. Cool. Let's go to the next slide.
Cool.
So now we're talking about really kind of, I'm glad this slide popped up next after that last question, because that question actually leads us here. So having VPN access, the question is, will you really see who's connecting where, right? You got to have the endpoint visibility. You got to have the security posture and be able to protect those applications at that endpoint. Because just because I'm working from home, I'm still connecting to Salesforce. I'm still connecting to corporate applications. I'm still connecting to whatever it is, right? Your laptop from home could get infected. If it gets infected and I'm connecting to corporate, guess what? That's going to move straight to the corporate. So we mentioned already that vulnerability scanning, web filtering, patching. I'm still amazed at how many laptops and people I talk to with laptops don't keep up with the patching. It kind of blows my mind. I'm like, really? I mean, that's kind of important. And then, of course, that somebody just asked about the VPN, right? So being able to control the who, the what, the where, and the when. Now, that's mentioned single sign-on, and I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, that I think even more important than single sign-on is having that multi-factor, to where you're having to use a token, whether it's software or hardware, having that token to identify exactly where you're connecting. Now that could be, and I guess the other thing, and I was thinking about this earlier this morning, Andy, this diagram kind of shows somebody that could be at a branch office, could be a corporate office. I think there's some danger even at the branch offices connecting, because it depends on what kind of security posture that you're utilizing, right, from a branch office. Because more and more companies are going to a direct internet access from the branch instead of going directly to the corporate. They're going to the internet and then traversing over, or they're going directly to a cloud. That's huge when you start thinking about how do I protect that, because that also demands zero trust network access, whether you're in a branch office, if you're in a corporate, if you're working from home, really doesn't matter. I think it's on net, off net, even if you're not working.
Yeah, and so to that point is, as you know, Meriplex, we're also telco. We offer services, related to MPLS, connection to internet, DII, all those type of services. And I would tell you that the change has been tremendously, right? We have seen that people who has used MPLS in a traditional environment, they're moving away from that solution to just an internet connection-based architecture, as you were saying, which, zero trust and the things that we're talking today is essential. Is essential as a piece of an architecture.
Yeah, so we call it security-driven branch. So what that means is from the branch facility, you still want to apply that zero trust. So we've got another good question. How does zero trust work in a multi-cloud situation? Again, let's kind of talk about this scenario from the branch perspective. Maybe you're connecting to Salesforce. Maybe you're connecting to Box or OneDrive or Google Drive, or maybe you're connecting to another application that is being hosted in AWS or Azure. The way it works is that access out of that branch or out of that home office is protected, right? So that's part of that security-driven branch design and concept, is we're protecting you there. So when you start going somewhere or doing something that's out of the norm, it's going to actually answer that question and go, whoa, no. And the same with inbound traffic back to that user.
Yeah, and something to understand from what we're talking today, this is not just one product, right? This is an architecture conversation, right? And I'm glad that Scott asked that question, because at the very end, you and I know that pretty much a lot of our customers have this situation with the multi-cloud. And when you are thinking of this, you are consuming services, as an infrastructure as a service, but in some cases, a software as a service, where you don't even know what that service is being, providing the service. Now, something I would say is that for me, one of the requirements when I look for these services is that they have some level of identity and access management that I can take advantage of, right? Local authentication, is not going to, to me, is just going to, from an architecture perspective, is not a good solution for an enterprise. You have to have good hands around them.
Yep, absolutely. Zero trust, a good architecture. If all of my infrastructure is in a private cloud, yes, absolutely. And I mean, here's the crazy part of that I would throw out there. I have had people tell me, "Oh, we're all private cloud. We're good."
Yes, same here. No, you're not.
No. Anytime people think, "Oh, we're good. I'm safe. I don't have to worry about it." No. I mean, here's a silly analogy, Andy. I'm going to cancel my car insurance because I haven't had a wreck in 2 years. I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of architecture you have. To your point you made a minute ago, zero trust network access is home, whether you work from home, whether you're working in the office, it doesn't matter. Private cloud, public cloud, you still have to have that.
And I don't know if this happened to you, but I think it's when you engage in conversations with a customer that they did that, like those type of statements, you start asking questions and they quickly realize that that's not the case, right? You say, okay, so you have everything in your private cloud, how you access that? Oh, yes, we access from this corporate office. Okay, and who accesses that? Oh, we have all these people. Okay, do you see what's going on right now? You're expanding what you thought that you have contained. This was not so easy to represent. It's not just a question of where your infrastructure is. Is the when, is how, is what devices, what users. So all those questions need to be answered whenever you talk about zero trust.
Exactly. Dead on. I agree. Absolutely. So let's go to the next slide. So, and this is going to kind of sum up what you said a minute ago, Andy, and it was well stated. When we talk about zero trust network access, it's more than a single product. I just look, our firewalls are fantastic, right? But our firewalls alone are not going to provide everything you need from a zero trust network access, right? So there's things like, passwords. And again, we talked about two-factor authentication. The other thing that I would mention here, and Andy, I know you're going to jump on this as well, is a product like an EDR. And I mentioned that, guys. I know we talked about this 2 weeks or about a month ago, I think, wasn't it, Andy, that we talked about EDR? Yes. That is so huge because people don't know. If you're sitting in front of your laptop, you don't know when something's going to come in and infect your laptop. You don't know when somebody's actually hacked in. It's not that obvious. I know Hollywood makes it look like it's obvious, but it's really not.
With all the red lines and the black.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, again, to your point, the visibility, right? It really doesn't matter what it is. And we're talking about, everything from EDR to a client to the firewall to network access control. I think all of these are elements of zero trust network access. And Andy, I think you'll agree. You and I are not here to try to tell people to go buy everything that we're suggesting. What we're trying to do is educate the folks who are watching this to go, wait a minute, maybe I need to stop and think about is somebody monitoring what I'm doing and where I'm going? Is somebody watching my device to make sure I'm not being infected? How are you actually paying attention? I like using those words.
Yeah, and so to me, something that I like to say that keep me to sleep well at night is when you have this visibility and you can contain these situations, right? The EDR is a great example, great tool that help any organization to say with FortiEDR we can put the arms around that malware and do not let it do anything, right? Mm-hmm. To me, that's the key concept when you talk about security and when you talk about effective security is when you can position these solutions that are going to give you that level of comfort. You have the visibility and you have the way that is going to prevent that from exploding in your organization. Zero trust, and let's go to a simple case, right? You have a computer with a malware, and let's say that you don't have FortiEDR, because if you have FortiEDR will not let it execute. But let's say you don't have the product, but you have something else, and somehow the next generation AV didn't detect it, which we know can happen, right?
Yeah.
When that computer is executing that, you have all these other components in your zero trust that can help you to prevent that from expanding within your organization, which is critical, right? To me, when you deploy these different solutions that will help you isolate what's going on with a single device, and this can be, as you were saying, a patching that has been exploited, and your network access control can tell you, you cannot connect to my network because you don't have, so you will not let you access the application because you don't have this particular patch, right? But all these different components play together. So again, if you have a situation which all of us will have, right, at some point, it doesn't let you propagate to the whole enterprise.
Right. That's the key. That is absolutely the key. And I like that third bullet there, growing IoT attack service. I mean, we have so much IoT, Internet of Things, headless devices. How are you actually paying attention to those? I know I keep using those two words, but like you said, I want to be able to sleep at night and not be worried about somebody hacking in.
With IoT, what I like to ask people is, when was the last time you upgraded that? And they will tell you there's no upgrades. Correct. For the majority of them, for a lot of them, there's no upgrades. And the next question is, do you have them in your data LAN? And you will be surprised. A lot of people don't realize that, for example, TVs, they have TVs in their data VLANs. They have smart TV, and this connects to their same where you have your domain controllers and the rest of the stuff, which is a big risk.
Yeah. I mean, think about your APs, right? How many times could somebody hack into an AP? It happens all the time, right? So, I mean, we're talking about a surface that's huge. And that's really the key, right? Is kind of keep that in mind.
Yep. Okay, let me see if we have any other question. I think we're good on the question. Oh, here it is. Okay. What are the high-level steps if you want to implement ZTNA? Okay, do you want me to take it to try on this. So you
Well, I was going to say call you, but
call Meriplex. That's the first thing. We can give you, connect@meriplex.com. You can call us. So I would say that you have to think in this cornerstone, right? You have to think in this cornerstone. This is a product that is related, one more time, to multiple solutions, right? This is an architecture that is to multiple solutions. You have to think about user. You have to think about connectivity. You have to think about the applications that you're consuming. You have to think about how users will consume those applications. And with that, then we can talk about, products and solutions. This is much bigger than just, let's buy one product and then push it, right? No, this is going to require change management within your organization to make sure that you are leveraging this correctly. And for example, multi-factor authentication, you and I know how much push we get back from the customers because they don't want to do it, which is understandable, right? But at the very end, every organization will be different. To me, it's data, applications, connectivity, user, and device. Did I forget anything?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And here's really the short answer I would have given. Call somebody either at Meriplex or Fortinet. Let us look at your environment, because there's too many variables there that we have to think about and consider to actually deploy zero trust network access.
Correct, and it's very different if you have multi-cloud, if you have a single private cloud. All those things are important for the design.
Yes.
Okay, we can close. Let's get some points away for the guys to take home.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is we have to remove ourselves from the mentality that we think that all our applications and users are within our lab. We already know from this situation that we're in that pretty much anyone can connect from anywhere. I have a couple of situations, and this is a true story of people that have gone to Cancun or Mexico, and they have been working from there, right, from another country, because it's prettier than Houston, and they have a very nice swimming pool there too, and they can still access the application. So that everything resides within my small control, within my outside, I can control with the firewall, is gone. That doesn't exist anymore. Then the second takeaway for me will be the zero trust users uses multiple variables as identity access, right? It's not your username and password, right? Those two things, we all use them for multiple things, but those are not the only variables that zero trust would use. It will use location, it will use device, it will use what applications are you trying to connect. So there's multiple variables that as an identity access management, that zero trust will take advantage to provide or not access to those services.
Absolutely. A third takeaway would be utilize the multi-factor authentication when accessing the corporate environments. And guys, I know we've hammered this home, but can't emphasize that enough. Utilize something that you'll have to use a token, not just your username and password. I can't emphasize that enough, and I think that's extremely important. And then the last takeaway is we mentioned the EDR. You need a next-gen AV. If you're not using the next-gen AV today, again, give Andy and contact Meriplex, because we're more than happy to work with you on that and help you find a way to deploy that. That's going to, again, I can't emphasize how important that is to stop those attacks from occurring, even when you're in Colorado or Cancun or wherever you are. It's extremely important.
Well, Andy, thank you so much for the time. I really enjoy all the time our videos, and thank you for our audience for participating. And as always, let us know how we can help. This has been a very interesting topic, and I'm sure we're going to do more in the future. Macy is going to take care of that. Have a nice weekend, amigo.